There's a dark side to everything around us. When there's day, there's night. When there's hot, there's cold. When there's yes, there is in fact no. But when you spend your whole life playing video games, you are bound to turn to a more sinister side.
You're not making any sense.
Nintendo made horror games.
That's why I'm here!
While Nintendo is known for Italian plumbers and tax-evading pink circles, there is a side of them that is very, how do you say, spooky! While more often than not, it's rare, and when the idea does veer its head around the spooky corner, people tend to get excited. Tub-Up, this is where you speak.
Oh yeah, my bad. Remember that Emio teaser that they just randomly dropped a while back? Nobody knew what this was going to be, but it seemed like Nintendo was starting to dip their toes into the horror genre. Until we learned it was a trailer for a visual novel.
Oh, cool!
Wait. They've still made horror games before.
All right. I forgot about that.
Were you about to shoot yourself over a visual novel?
While Nintendo might have done more horror marketing than game making, they still have tried their hand on scaring the people who like Yoshi. These games are more likely to be second-party exclusive to Nintendo, meaning they didn't develop them, only published them. It's kind of like how Bayonetta 2 was a Wii U exclusive, but Nintendo didn't have any hand in developing it.
Believe it or not, it's actually quite hard to find these kinds of games. Nintendo doesn't really plaster them around because God forbid you put Eternal Darkness on the same page as Mario. However, we did manage to find a few thanks to the evil spirit demon in the corner of Tom's room.
The evil. Oh my god!
You never saw that thing?
The cameras never looked over there. For all I knew, that was just void. Clock tower.
I can't believe they made Tilted Towers from Fortnite into a video game. Technology's come pretty far.
Released in 1995 for the Super Famicom, Clock Tower would start off the point-and-click horror series. For the time, it was a very interesting concept, a point-and-click game using a f***ing controller! Never mind the mouse they made for the one game with paint. No, you're stuck with the D-pad and the 4 colorful buttons that make your parents question your sexuality.
As if it isn't obvious. What?
Awkward controls aside, the game isn't afraid to go into darker themes. You follow Jennifer Simpson, an orphan recently adopted along with her orphan sisters. Upon arriving at her new home, ultra super killing death happens, and Jennifer takes no time in ensuring that her and her sister can make it out of there safely.
As you're going around the tower finding clues, you'll often run into... Is that the Scissor Man? Funny name aside, it is terrifying every time this man appears. He is chasing you throughout the entire clock tower and can show up at any moment. It keeps you on your toes. You don't want to be snipped by the Scissor Man, but hey, who else is gonna cut out these newspaper clippings about my greatest achievement?
When he isn't chasing you down, the game is honestly pretty creepy. There's no music whatsoever as you explore, just random sounds and the occasional bird. The goal is to find your sisters, and trust me, if the game didn't have this goal, this shit would be over quick. She quite literally finds a car and car keys, but refuses to escape until she knows the other people are safe.
Wouldn't be me.
So you wouldn't save your sister from a mass murderer with a giant pair of scissors?
No.
Clock Tower is honestly a nice little gem for the Super Famicom. While it never got released outside of Japan, a fan-translated patch has existed for some time now.
And the game is getting an official localization this year. Hopefully one day it gets a full remake with actual mouse controls, because hot damn, using the D-pad to control this cursor was sluggish. It just moves so slowly, and it makes me wish I could just move the character with the D-pad.
Tom, don't complain, you're going to upset the demon.
He seems like he's chilling.
Ooh, that's his upset look.
Yeah, I don't see it. Fuck, I'm gonna get called a Scott clone for just mentioning this, aren't I?
Geist is such a silly word. Who up geisting they GameCubes right now? This game is an interesting one, developed by the same people who made Eternal Darkness, but much different in terms of gameplay.
Instead of doing their own take on Resident Evil, N-Space decided to take on the action survival genre. You're a soldier turned into a ghost, and your goal is to stop the Volks Corporation from using their technology to turn the world leaders into more ghosts.
Honestly, I'm not opposed to this idea.
You know, I don't think they actually like that. How would you feel if I turned you into a ghost, huh?
I am one step ahead of you, buddy.
You learn from this ghost girl how to possess things, and the mechanics are kinda cool. You can't just possess anyone. You have to scare them first, and that involves using objects around the room to rustle their jimmies enough so that you can eventually take over their body.
The visual of possessing is kind of creepy. The game, while not really too scary, does go out of its way to reel you in with its sound design and ideas. The horrific screams of the people you possess, the brutal murder of the soldiers, the way you have to drain life from plants in order to stay alive.
When in ghost mode, you need to keep your energy up. You can do this by either possessing or by draining the life of plants. It's almost as if you need to use other living creatures to survive, and it makes you wonder if possessing people hinders them in some way.
Can't confirm. Possessing people kills them in the real world.
When did you possess anyone?
I possessed that guy while you weren't looking.
More like possessed him by being boring. Did you just show me a fucking dead person?
Now, we would go more in depth about the game, but the controls here were way too sluggish.
Looking around felt like you were fighting with the character, almost as if there was rubber bands pulling you back as you were trying to look around. Furthermore, to add to the immersion, the character's POV moves like a shit ton, and it can get nauseating. It makes moving and aiming very difficult, and sometimes locking on to what you want to interact with is like trying to kill a fly with a toothpick.
Oddly enough, I would have expected more horror elements, since the last game that Endspace developed was Eternal Darkness. That game broke the fourth wall hard and used sanity as a way to scare the player. Not to mention it leaned very hard into cosmic horror. Geist feels like it could be more scary, and that it has the premise to do so, but it never went down that route.
If you want to know more about Eternal Darkness, I already did a video on it. Please watch it. It's one of my more favorite videos that I've done.
So far, we had an NES game and a not so much horror game.
I don't know, man. Ghosts could be pretty scary.
I don't even think this demon's scary anymore. There's no possible way it can give us anything scary that Nintendo's done.
This is a Fatal Frame game. Fatal Frame for the longest time was published by Nintendo, but in recent years it's been coming to other consoles, making looking for games for this video so much harder. However, there was one game that was more unique than the rest called Spirit Camera, the Cursed Memoir.
We didn't even realize that this was a Fatal Frame game. You follow the spirit named Maya and have to use the camera obscura to read through the cursed diary of faces in order to find out how to stop the woman in black. She steals faces.
How am I supposed to mog at the camera now?
How are you breathing?
I'm not.
This game really does try to lean into more horror aspects in a pretty interesting way. It utilizes the 3DS's cameras, making it one of the only augmented reality horror games that I've ever played, except for Special Delivery like the FNAF one. Tom, throw that up on the screen. That game was funny.
The camera will affect pages on the included AR book, and the tracking on the page itself is very impressive for a 3DS game. The story is also very compelling, and if you want to hear more about it, then head over to Topup's channel where we talk about it a bit more.
And you know something? Nintendo and horror mix like orange juice and toothpaste.
Not well?
No, an unlikely combination that you wouldn't expect to love, but want to see more of once you try it.
I do not believe for a second that is what you're doing right now.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it, pal.
Even without having a hand within development, you can still feel the Nintendo charm as they publish these games. They chose to publish these games because they meet the standards that are known from this company. From Clock Tower on the Super Nintendo to heck, even Emio, there is a different approach to horror on the Nintendo consoles.
They all offer unique ideas that try to unsettle the player rather than get cheap scares. The ideas alone hold up the horror aspects and get you to think about how you would feel if you were in that situation. I mean, personally, I wouldn't want my face being stolen.
I think with a company like Nintendo, the idea of the family-friendly company doing more mature ideas gets people excited. They make games that are so much fun, no matter what size human you are. Imagine focusing a little bit more and taking that same design philosophy towards something like horror.
It's why Emio got people so interested. There was no words, no nothing about this elusive character, and it got people talking because this is not like something for this company to do. They would not normally go down this route. Admittedly, they didn't, but I mean, the interest is still there.
And when people do make creepypastas or .exe games of these beloved characters, they become big and kind of interesting. Kind of like that one time every copy of Super Mario 64 was personalized. I think it could be cool if Nintendo really tried their hand at this genre, and instead of making it cutesy like Luigi's Mansion, they make it so I shit my pants. Speaking of which, can you get out of my home, Mr. Demon?
I think that's a no.
Then I'm making you pay rent because the mortgage on this house is astounding.
Looks like Tom's in quite the pickle. How do I leave a Discord call? I don't want to be part of this anymore.